mention that during my visit to Chicago, I attended the annual gathering of the American Baptist Churches of Michigan. And this trip to Michigan was actually a plan B after previous arrangements changed. And while staying in Battle Creek, Michigan, I learned from a dear friend that I was in the very place where Sojourner Truth is buried. And to be honest, I was terrified to visit her monument and grave because I knew that God wanted to tell me something profound. How incredible is it that over 20 years later, God would take me to the place where the woman whose words shaped my understanding of faith and justice is laid to rest? And as I approached her statue, the first thing I noticed was its towering height, 12 feet. Sojourner Truth was a commanding presence in life, standing 6 feet tall with a deep, resonating voice that demanded attention. I couldn't help but feel the weight of her legacy and the impact she has had on our understanding of God's will for women. I stood there in quiet reflection and asked, "What do you want me to know?" And in that sacred moment, I heard her spirit say, "Be big, be tall, take up space." It struck me that it is God's will for God's people to be big in faith, to stand tall in conviction, and to take up space in a world that tries to shrink us. Just as the apostles in Acts were sent out, not in fear, but in power, Sojourner was sent, and so are we. And now, like the apostles, like Sojourner, like Mrs. Burden, who believed in me before I believed in myself, I know my commission. And I commission you, my sisters, to walk in that power, to speak that truth, to take up the space that is yours, and to invite others to do the same. Be big, be tall, take up space. You just declared some bold, beautiful truths over yourself. Truths that remind you to live fully, lead fearlessly, and walk in the power God has given you. But here's the thing. Boldness doesn't always look like action. Sometimes boldness looks like patience. Sometimes taking up space means being willing to stand still when everything in you wants to move. It means trusting that God is working, even when nothing seems to be changing. Because leadership isn't just about charging forward. It's about discerning when to act, how to listen, and what to release. So I want us to shift together from that bold declaration of courage to a posture of surrender, trust, and preparation. I want to invite us to lean into the sacred, often uncomfortable space of waiting. Waiting doesn't mean you've lost your voice. It means you're tuning in to the Spirit's timing. As leaders, many of us find ourselves in spaces of transition, navigating change, discerning next steps, and often waiting on God's timing. Waiting is uncomfortable. It stretches us, refines us, and sometimes leaves us wondering if we've been forgotten. But what if the waiting is not a delay, but a preparation? What if, like Moses, Esther, or even Jesus in the wilderness, we are being shaped for what's ahead? And so I invite you to close your eyes or soften your gaze, whatever feels comfortable. And I want you to take a deep breath in and slowly exhale. One more time. And as you breathe in this time, I want you to silently pray, "Be strong and courageous." And I want you to exhale and pray, "God is working in the waiting." Inhale, "Be strong and courageous." Exhale, "God is working in the waiting." And with one final deep breath, be strong and courageous. Exhale. God is working in the waiting. I invite you to settle into God's presence. Leading change in the church and in the world requires wisdom, not just in knowing what to do, but in discerning when to move. We see this in scripture over and over again. Moses was called to lead Israel, but first he waited 40 years in the wilderness. Esther was placed in a position of influence, but she had to wait for the right moment to act. Even Jesus, fully God and fully human, waited 30 years before stepping into public ministry. Why? Because the waiting was part of the preparation. Yet in our ministries, waiting can feel like inaction, like failure, like we're falling behind. But what if we reframed it? What if we saw waiting as sacred space where God is strengthening us, deepening our trust, and preparing us for what's ahead? I want to invite you into a simple reflective exercise. I want you to place your hands in front of you, palms up. And in your left hand, I want you to imagine holding the things you are waiting for in your leadership and in your life right now. Maybe it's clarity for a decision, breakthrough in your congregation, breakthrough in your life, or simply the energy to keep going. I want you to hold those things in your mind for a moment. And now in your right hand, imagine holding what God is already doing. The unseen ways God is shaping you, the growth happening even when it's not visible, the trust that is being built in the waiting. And now, if you feel led, I invite you to symbolically release one of those burdens. Slowly turn your left hand over, letting go of the frustration, the pressure, or the doubt that comes with waiting. And with your right hand, I want you to gently close it into a fist, holding on to the truth that God is working, even in the waiting. God is working, even in the waiting. Let's sit with that for a brief moment. God is working in the waiting. Obliged to you for hearing me. And now Reverend LT. Ain't got nothing more to say.